welcome to The Other Three Amigos, Las Damas, your weekly unofficial SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division podcast with Declan McCormack, Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So sit back, put the feet up, because it's toe tap time.
On this week's episode of Las Damas, we reflect on the opening weekend of the Avenir All Island Cup. We talk about the South Tipp talent hotbed. The good, the bad and the ugly returns. Eileen tries to get us cancelled. We have commentary from the markets field. We look ahead to next week and much, much more on this week's Las Damas, the Norwegian fishing trawler. Hello and welcome to Las Damas Season 3, Episode 4. We've made it this far anyway, guys, so something good must be happening. Episode 188 in total of the whole South Tipp catalogue. We were once upon a time an award-winning podcast. We're also now on Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/South Tipp. If you can retweet the pod, it is very important to help us grow. And as we say, our DMs are always open, but from a Las Damas point of view, nobody has taken advantage yet. Oh, no, sorry, no, I'm wrong. I am wrong. We've gotten a couple of messages from somebody who keeps wanting us to bring Just Jess on the podcast for an interview, etc., you know? Look, I can't remember the name of the account now, but look, whoever you are, look, we will. There's a long season there. There's a lots of things to do, you know. But we're going to sit off the interviews for the next couple of weeks, having had Phil Trill and Kieran McCormack in the last couple of weeks. But look, relax, take a deep breath. I saw them actually under one of our tweets. I don't know, was it after the treaty game the other night? And this account just comes in going, when are you getting Jess on? You know, and I was like, that's them again. There's no panic. Just take a deep breath, relax. We will get Jess on at some stage, okay? So now that that's after popping into my head and we get past that, this week we did get a lovely message from Tony, who is the Bows commentator that we said nice things about last week. So Tony sent us a lovely message thanking us for recognising his work on that commentary, and then we were actually tuned into him again today, and he outdid himself again by somehow not saying anything derogatory about Lisburn in that first half, because they were absolutely cat. But we will get to that later on in a few minutes. So, and look, Cork City are in Bows next week, so we'll hear more from Tony again next week. Guys, we are due an international squad announcement this week. Anybody expecting any surprises, Eileen?
Good evening, lads. Anyway, first of all, how are you?
Yeah, sorry. My bad. I'm terrible at this hosting crap. Okay, sorry. As always, joined by Eileen Ring, as you well know. John O'Sullivan, as you well know. Eileen, might as well do this now as well. Okay, now that Eileen has danced and nobody has seen it, only myself and John, I'll get back to where I was. International squad, Eileen. Any surprises on the way, do you reckon?
I don't think there will be any surprises. You'd expect Denise to be back in, God willing, because obviously the games are going to be a lot more difficult than they have been in the last while. So it's really important that we have her. But look, she's back playing, and their season is back in the States as well. I don't think we will. I saw the under-19 squad was named, and some of the younger players that Eileen Gleeson has pulled in the last while to the senior squad are with that. And I hope they'll be left with that, because whatever about pulling under-19s away from their own camps, if you're going to get game time, you're not going to be playing them against France or England. So if it is a case of you're missing players with injuries, there's enough players in the league that don't need to be with an under-19 squad. That possibly could, as I said, be called up maybe instead of just pulling younger players away from their under-19 squad. I think it's really important that they stay with those squads. So there is a couple of senior players there. We spoke about Scarlett Heron last week. We spoke about Jenna Slattery. If you're bringing someone in, bring somebody like that in and give them a chance.
John, just there, Eileen mentions players like Scarlett Heron, etc. I'm just wondering, has Eileen Gleeson actually been attending National League games? Do any of you guys know? Because you'd often see pictures. I know herself and Colin Healy were pictured at, I think it was PRL Park towards the end of last season, watching one of the games. I haven't seen or heard of her being around games. I'm just wondering, have you heard anything of her being there, John?
No, it's a good question. I haven't. That's not to say she isn't, but no. Usually, you'd see pictures pop up in Sports File or something like that if she was at grounds. But no, I haven't seen it. Hopefully, she is, because, like Eileen said, players like Jenna Slattery, Scarlett Hearn, and a few others are well capable of stepping up if need be.
Yeah, Eileen, would you be annoyed if, say, she wasn't at the Peamount Shelburne game recently?
No, look, and maybe that's just because I'm used to our international manager not really showing up that much at league games. But look, there's obviously games on in England all last weekend. There's games on in England all this weekend, and that's probably where the majority of our players are. So there's a possibility she could be over there. I'm currently watching Arsenal and Aston Villa, and Emma Burns on commentary, so she's definitely over there. Like, obviously you want a representative there, whether that's Colin or someone else in the coaching staff, trying to get to a game a weekend. I just think it's a good incentive for players in the league as well. But as I said, look, I understand at the same time a big load of our players are coming from the leagues in England. So there is a possibility maybe that she goes over and takes in 2 or 3 games there at the weekend. But yeah, like, and you have Shelburne, I think Shamrock Rovers coming up in a few weeks. But you'd be hoping, as I said, look, with LOI TV and all the clubs record the games themselves, you'd be hoping they are watching these matches in the league as well.
Look, finally on this, you said you weren't expecting any surprises. Are you expecting anybody maybe to pay the price for the poor showing against Wales and miss out?
No, I don't think so. I think that I think, look, you're always going to see a little bit of interchanging in certain personnel between injuries and stuff. And like Aoife Mannion was in the last squad, and I don't think she's featured for Manchester United that much. So there'll probably be questions over her fitness. Like, you're always going to see a little bit of interchanging. And said, like, there's games this weekend, there's games next weekend. So you could be subject to losing 1 or 2 to injuries. So I don't think anyone's going to be falling out of a squad based on those 2 games either. Like, I think it's probably they're looking at a bigger picture there in terms of how they're performing week in, week out, and in camp when they're there, not just necessarily on a game of 20 minutes of a game or however long it might be.
Okay, cool. We'll see what the announcement brings, and we might catch up with it next week. In the meantime, in the underage results, the under-19s Group A, Finn Harps 1, Shells 1, and Peamount 0, Bows 4. I'm keeping a keen eye on the Finn Harps thing since our discussion around this on week 1. Group B, Athlone 2, Sligo 0, Bray 1, DLR 1, and Galway 0, Shamrock Rovers 1. Under-19s Group C saw CK United and Treaty United draw 1 each. Wexford beat Cork City 5-2, and Waterford beat Cove down in the day, Shabai. In the under-17s, Group A saw Dundalk lose at home to Shelburne 3-1, Finn Harps 0, Drogheda United 2, and Shamrock Rovers 1 away in Longford. Group B, Athlone 4, Galway 0, Treaty 0, Sligo 1, Mayo 1, DLR 1, which is, I believe, the first point for Mayo as a National League club. So congratulations to them on that. And St. Pat's 3, Peamount 2. And finally in Group C, Wexford 1, Waterford 5, Bray 1, Cork City 0, and CK United beat Cove Ramblers 2-0. John, you're always keen on the underage stuff. Anything jump out at you from those results?
Yeah, CK United actually have traditionally not been very strong in the league. They've actually put together a really good couple of results this year, which shows they're progressing and they're starting to do well. One thing that actually did kind of jump out at me was in the 2 underage games that Wexford Youths played this week, they scored 6 goals, and 5 of the goal scorers were from South Tipp, which is funny considering the distance they're travelling to go down to Wexford. No, like, I mean, that it just is, but I think it does go to show how strong the league, the girls' football is in Tipperary, that so many girls are actually starting to, make an inroads into the League of Ireland. That's biased because I'm based in Cashel, like.
Of course, but I mean, is it, like as you said, it's a long trip from South Tipperary to Wexford. That's an area that that Treaty United, as they get themselves organised, and as you know, Ciara McCormack and as we spoke about last week, and Marie Curtin get stuck into things, that whole South Tipperary area must be an area that appeals massively to Treaty in terms of recruiting players.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is really. This centre of excellence for South Tipperary used to be in Limerick, and there used to be a much stronger connection. Whereas now the centre of excellence for South Tip is down in Waterford. So you start pulling into a catchment area where there's more Wexford, Waterford kids involved. But yeah, I mean, like two of the scorers for Wexford this weekend, Liliana Mara and Keola Bergen, who obviously has played senior for Wexford as well. Both of those started off with Killavilla United in North Tipp. They're only like 40 minutes from Treaty, and they're also driving past Carlow Kilkenny on their way to Wexford. So, you know, it's I suppose it shows the draw that Wexford are for players coming through, but also I think it is something that Treaty, definitely based on our conversation with Ciara, will be targeting as well, just to, you know, spread the wings a little bit wider there.
I was talking to somebody today, and I wasn't planning on going down this route, but here we are now again, as it always happens. I was talking to somebody today, and they described Wexford as being like a Norwegian fishing trawler, and that they just cast a massive net, and whatever they catch as they trawl, they're happy to take on board. Is that unfair, John?
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, they look, there's no doubt that they have a savage network that's bringing kids in from, like, you know, the Midwest and even the Southwest, along with the Southeast. They aren't afraid to, you know, attract players that are with other clubs as well, which is all part of the game. But it's not an issue once they're keeping those kids happy and they're developing them and things like that. But I think the problem and the challenge they have is that they've got so many talented players on that on in the club there. How do you keep them all happy long term? And when you're, you know, when you have the quality players, you have the senior setup as well, are the opportunities for those young players coming through going to be there? But look, it's just the way football is. But I think Cork City, Treaty, CK United probably all need to work a little bit harder, because Wexford's clearly have got their fingers well across the country at this stage in terms of basically the entire south of the country, bar West Limerick and Kerry.
And you mentioned there that the Centre of Excellence for Tipperary is now in Waterford. As Waterford grows its women's club, they obviously then are going to become some kind of a major player in, not just in South Tipp, but in the whole Munster region as well.
Yeah. They are, and the other thing as well, Jess Lawton, who obviously friended a pod, being down in Waterford now, like Jess knows every kid in Munster in terms of who's coming through and their quality. So she'll be a big draw as well, given her experience and her record and the kind of environment she sets in a club. So yeah, it's interesting times, like for the southern half of the country, because obviously Kerry are going to be building their academy as well, and Cove have pulled down a few good results recently as well. So yeah, interesting times. Yeah, and look, it's all good really. There's the quality kid coming through the clubs want to fight over as well.
Interesting. We'll keep an eye on it, but we got to move on. Guys, this week was week 1 of the Avenir All Ireland Cup. Good to see Avenir back as the sponsor. I guess they got what they wanted out of it last year, so have returned. I'm just going to go through the games, and we'll do them group by group, I think is probably the easiest way. So, Eileen, Peamount were 1 up at home to Linfield, then they were 2-1 down. Finished 2-2. Was the draw the fair result? And what did you make of Linfield was the other thing I wanted to know.
I thought they were very slow to start, which is probably to be expected because, as we spoke of last week, their season doesn't kick off till the 5th of May. But I was impressed them in the second half, and I think a draw was a fair result. I thought Peamount were very much on top in the first half, and then Linfield came out. I'm going to call Linfield. I thought they were a little bit dirty. I thought there was one particular challenge after about 20 minutes on Ellen Dolan, and it's a desperate tackle. Like in the men's game, it's a red card all day, but I think sometimes in the women's game, you probably get away with a little bit more. So there was plenty of bite in it then from then on. And obviously, look, Peamount are more than capable of giving as good as they get as well. But who stood out for me massively for Peamount was Mia McGonigal. I think it was her first start for their senior side. And if you go back and watch their first goal, Linfield have the ball, and like she tracks back, she wins it, she finds Ellen Dolan, who's brilliant feet. In fact, it was her. I've watched Piedmont's first 2 games this season, and I think Ellen Dolan, how well she finished last season, she probably hasn't started this season as brightly, but she was excellent for them the other day. And it was a really good goal. But I thought, yeah, look, Piedmont were pushing late on, even to maybe get a winner, and maybe that just comes down to fitness as well. But I do still think maybe their squad is on the lighter side. So I think they'll probably be relying on the likes of Mia McGonigal and maybe some more of their under-19s to come through and bulk that out a bit, because they definitely are. It's obvious that they're missing again, and I spoke about her last week, but against better sides like Sive Doyle is such a miss there. And Erica Burke had went off early last week, so she was out. So I think between Ellen Dolan and Erin McLaughlin, they were the two up top. But I don't think that's Erin's natural position to be. I think she prefers to be the 10 and dropping in and making things happen. No, it was a really, really good game. And I think Piedmont will be happy with how they bounce back from the Shelburne defeat the week before, and get a positive result. And also they had a bit of a nightmare in this competition last year, so I think they'll be delighted they started off with a positive result.
Interesting. I just looked there. I see it was Darrell Carlin was the referee. I have the wrong laptop open. No, all my referee stuff is on the other laptop, but I was tracking them. And like cards in the women's game isn't a massive thing, not in the same way as it is in the men's game. So when you're tracking referees in the women's game, it's not really a massive thing. But off the top of my head, I do think he's not overly card happy, you know. Maybe that helped Linfield. But just looking, Linfield had 2 yellow cards, Piedmont 1, so there was no backing up of your Linfield were dirty in terms of the number of cards dished out or any of that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, but just watching the game, as you said, I think the women's game in general, like there's very few cards given out. I don't think that's always justified. Like you see tackles going in left, right and centre, and in men's games, in particular, if it's a first division men's game, there's about double the cards. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's,
Yeah.
again, it's the consistency level, and it's finding that consistency and what's okay and what's not, because that wasn't the only game this weekend where we saw bad tackles. I'm sure we'll talk about it, and look, fiery situations. And look, we see it every weekend. And I just thought maybe the tackle in particular, I think it was on Ellen Dolan, and only that she's alert to it, I think she could get quite badly injured there. And that's always my fear. Look, I said, bad tackles happen. It's part of the game. Like, but at the same time, there was another one, I think it was the Athlone game today. Was that early on? Did the Glentoran player she went in studs up, and a little bit high and caught the player, and it was early. And I was actually surprised to see him book her, although it's a yellow card all day long. That just probably tells you, I think, where the cards are. Unless your name is Katie McCabe in the women's game, you're kind of safe enough with yellow cards for the most part.
Oh, poor Arsenal. They're always tortured, aren't they? Yeah, the only thing that I can remember from the card stuff last year was I know Shelburne had the worst disciplinary record in the division last year, and I know Piedmont were the team whose opposition had the most cards. So Piedmont looked like a team who could draw cards from the opposition last year, but the card numbers are tiny, as I said, so they're probably not really relevant in bigger conversations. In that group as well, guys, we saw Bows beat Lisburn 4-0 today. I said in the opening that I thought Lisburn were awful first half. It was 3-0 at half time. I genuinely thought we could get to a situation where Bows could get 6, 7, 8 if they wanted a second half. In the end, they only got 1 to make it 4. The fourth goal, though, Eileen, and I just want to go back to Eileen again here. That ball in was something that had you absolutely pouring in the WhatsApp group when you were watching it.
Yeah, I was. If you have, as I said, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. The ball from Fitzpatrick is incredible. Like, I think, like, she's the girl who went on loan to Treaty from Shamrock Rovers, was she? Like, if you look at
Yeah,
how she started the season with Bows, like, Shamrock Rovers have got to be pulling their hair out. Like, she is incredible, and she's only 16. She's so talented, and she was excellent in the first half as well. But that ball and the movement from, like, Alana McAvoy is probably one of the smaller players in the pitch, and she wins the header because literally she probably can't miss, really, because it's literally just put on a plate for her. really good. I thought, Lisburn were poor, but Bows were impressive, weren't they? And we had said that in the group. Are they really good or are Lisburn really poor? Is it a bit of both? They were really good. And look, they were good defensively. I think what was interesting about them was last week, I thought they were really good where Athlone had a lot of the ball. So they just had to be really resolute in defence and work with it. And then today they had all the possession. And they were able to flip that quite easily in terms of, and that's a complete change in how you're playing. Like, and that was really, really impressive to me, because on the flip side, and we'll talk about it in a minute, I think DLR struggled with that. I think they struggled having more of the ball than what they'd be used to. So yeah, look, I was impressed with Bowles, and Savannah Kane scored a goal for them. And she's just, on Twitter, you have your following page and the For You page, and she popped up on my For You page a few weeks ago. It was her dad is a massive Bohemians fan, and when she signed for them, he was saying, like, signing, she had played for their under 10 boys and now she's back and she's after signing for their senior team. And he popped up again today and a load of people tweeting like, I just got such a great buzz off it, because can you imagine, like, if any of the three of ours now scored for Cork City, the absolute buzz, like,
Yeah.
I was genuinely, it's a really nice story to see stuff like that. And I think sometimes in the league that can kind of, you forget like that people are such big supporters of the football clubs, then to see as I said, if it was your young lad or your young girl going on to play for that senior side and scoring. So yeah, when he came up today, and a load of people then, a load of Bows fans were popping up my timeline saying, oh my God, you must have been buzzing. So no, that was good to see, in fairness. But yeah, Bows were good. Lisburn bad. Commentary, top notch again. Very, very good. He's so good. He was so informative. Like, I learned so much about the Northern Irish League today. Just in that game.
It's hard. And I mean, look, as I said, it turns out his dad is from Buttevant, so he does have a Cork connection. So we're more okay with him now this week than we were last week. But I mean, like, John, the thing about Bowes today, and Eileen mentioned it, and like, that girl Kate, and I hadn't seen her play before, but she was in the middle of the, and she wanted the football. She was demanding the football time and time again. The fullbacks were overlapping. They were completely bossing both sides, the wings, the left-hand side in particular. First half, they were just completely dominant, and Bows looked like a really, really good side. As I said, I'm not sure they were playing much today, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. And that first half, they looked like a really good side.
Yeah, no, but they've had a good start to the season as well. And to be fair, like, friend of the pod managing inside there as well is doing a great job. And to be fair, Eileen did mention at the start of the season when we were doing our preview the quality of player they've picked up in the off season. And yeah, look, they've really improved, and they're doing very well. And it'll be interesting to see how they do now against Linfield and Piedmont in this competition later in the group stage, because they've got a great chance to go really far in it.
Just to nip back to Piedmont, Eileen, were you surprised in any way by the team they picked?
No, not particularly. I think you'll see it. I think it's going to be a competition that, while everyone's taking it seriously, it's still a time for rotation, and you want to get your squad players time. And I think for that reason, you will see that bit of rotation in this competition in particular, especially getting like your younger underage players that bit of, as said, like start, and they're not just getting 10 minutes at the end of games. And you have to take that gamble at some point. And I think, especially with the bigger clubs, I don't think they put in underage players, I suppose, before they're ready. But as you said, I think with Piedmont, I do think their squad is on the lighter side. So like, they're going to be relying on some of those younger girls this season, especially when you've Champions League and things like that to factor into it. So no, I wasn't. And like, last year, I think they had to heavily rely on like the likes of Jess Fitzgerald, Ellen Dolan, Freya Healy came through towards the end of the season as well, and they performed for them. So it's worth taking a risk, because like, there's three that are starters for them that only Jess was at the start of last season. So like, they've had success at underage, so you may as well put them in. Like, but you did see a bit of rotation across the board, I think, this weekend, which is okay too, because as I said, your squad's there, you're making promises to players about giving them time and stuff, and that's fair enough too.
In Group B, our own beloved Cork City played Wexford in their home game in Ferrycarrig Park. I'm going to say something here now first before we get into the game. as the week built on and the week went on and the game was being promoted and the fixtures were released, and it's Cork City versus Wexford, and Cork City are the home side. And by the time we get to Ferry Carrick Park at whatever, was it 6 o'clock kickoff on Saturday, I was beyond pissed off at the situation, because if this was any other club, I'd be gone through them with like a knife through butter, in terms of, you're a professional football club. Okay, the women's side of the club isn't professional, but like, how do we get to the point where Cork City can't host a home game in Cork for an All Ireland Cup game? I mean, it's just beyond ridiculous what's gone on here. And I know they'll say it's Turner's Cross and the MFA and the FAI and everybody else is to blame, but at the end of the day, the club failed to host the game. Failed to host a home game, and and I think they've gotten away with murder, because it hasn't got picked up. It hasn't been picked up nationally by the press, because fundamentally nobody still gives a shit about the women's game in this country, and they will get away with it, and the FAI will get away with it, and the MFA will get away with it. But like, John, it's just an absolutely ridiculous situation for any club to find itself in this day and age.
Yeah, it is. It is. Turner's Cross is either the club's home or not. I still think Danny was absolutely right to refuse to go to Fermoy or to refuse to go to Bishopstown, because it'll become the default position every time the MFA or possibly even the club themselves want to, ease off on the use of the pitch. It's look, it should have been played in Turner's Cross. That, when the deal was done to let Cove in there, Danny and the players were told there was priorities and guarantees given, and the very first hurdle that we've come up against, it's fallen down. And like Eileen said in the pod last week, is anyone in there really fighting for them? And that's the worry.
On the pitch, it was an absolute belter of a game, lads.
Brilliant.
2-2 it finished, 3-minute period either side of half time, where there was 3 goals scored. I thought Wexford were poor again. I'm going to be accused of having an anti-Wexford bias, but I just thought they were poor. I thought the game was, if anybody was going to win it, it was going to be Cork City, to be honest. Having said that, Wexford were flagged for offside with 90 seconds to go. It's never offside. In a million years is it offside. The player who's flagged is standing in an offside position from a free kick. They don't interfere with play, make no effort to play the ball, get near the ball, anything else. It's thing. Having said that, the same assistant referee flagged Ellie O'Brien offside very early on, when she's probably not off either. And if we're still using the rules where the attacking player is given the advantage or any of those things, then you can't flag her offside either. So it's 1-1 in terms of poorish offside calls. But like, John, an absolute belter of a game.
Oh, it was great. It was great, and like, it was genuinely competitive. There was some great spells of football in it as well from both sides. Timing off the goals, obviously Wexford went ahead early enough, but like, Dorothea equalises just before half time, and like, was it 30-40 seconds later, Wexford are back in front, and we are on the WhatsApp group going mad about how quickly that has been conceded. And then a minute into the second half, Colleen Kennedy, who I thought was excellent yesterday, it pulls it back after a brilliant cross from Laura Shine. It was a really good game. And a nice bit of bite to it, a nice bit of needle as well, and a little scuffle in the box after the decision to give the offside later on. But no, it was really good. And like, when you hear both benches coming across over the microphone on LOI TV, you know that it's a bit of fun on the sideline as well. No, it was really, really good.
Eileen, what was your overall view? I mean, you had spoken about Laura Shine not being in the squad for the opening day of the season against Peamount. She started last night. She had an assist. She started wide right, where, to be fair, and I'd say straight out, none of us thought that's where she should have been starting. We all thought she should have been starting through the centre with Colleen playing wide right. Colleen scored. Laura got an assist from the right, so maybe it shows exactly why Danny's managing it, and the three of us are trying to talk about it. But what were your overall impressions?
Yeah, much the same as yourselves. Like, it was a great game. it was batshit crazy really at times, wasn't it? Like that period at the end of the first half, it started the second half. You're like, what is going on here? It was just bananas, but isn't that the best way to have it? I thought we were excellent. I thought we were really, really good. And my fear always is like, there's plenty of times I think we're really good and we're going to kick on, and we really need to actually kick on now. It can't be a one-off that you get the results, because like last year and the All Island Cup, like we thought, oh, this is it now, here we go, and it didn't happen. But like, not to be disrespectful to who we played last year, but like Wexford would be a bigger scalp to go down there. I know now technically it was our home game, but we still went down there and got the point. I thought we were brilliant, and I just thought we'd an awful lot of urgency in our game with and without the ball. I think Orla O'Mahony, like, she's, to use an analogy you always use, Decky, like, when we don't have her, we'll see how important she is, because she is incredible, her work rate. And I was listening to an interview with Danny afterwards, and he said, like, she actually does too much, and he's probably right, because like, she's an energizer bunny, like she is just going. And it was interesting to see like the dynamic between herself and Dorothea, because when Dorothea came on against Piedmont, like, I'd be the first to say, I was like, oh, this girl looks way off the pace. And like, I was 1,000,000% wrong, because I thought she was incredibly good. I think maybe she's a bit of a lazy gatch, but like, she covered a huge amount of ground, and intelligence wise, like, she's a really good footballer, and technically wise, like, that Ellie O'Brien thing that I think is on side as well, like her little ball around the corner for Ellie O'Brien is incredible. Like, and she'd one or two other passes. And like, this is only her in training. She's not training with us that long. Like, as the girls get to know her movements, where she's putting the ball, as she gets to know the girls' movements, I think she could be a really, really good player for us. So I think it's really, really positive. And look, I love that bit at the end. I love that bit of niggle at the end. I think for years we've been bullied. We've been bullied because we're too soft. And like, now, I suspected as soon as I saw Niamh Cotter and Jessie Mendes in the team last year, like, that's gone. But like, Heidi's getting involved in it, and they don't give an inch, and they don't care about people's reputation. They don't care who you are. They don't care what you've achieved in the game. And while I'm sure they respect it, in that situation, they're going to bat for each other. They're sticking up for each other. And that's what we want to see, because for years in that situation, we'd have just left it off. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we want to see. We want to see that little bite and that bit of aggression. And dare I say, we probably out Wexford an awful lot with our urgency and how much we wanted it, I think.
Yeah, it's funny because you talk about the scuffle at the end or whatever it is, and there was 4 players booked. On the Cork City side, you've Heidi Mack and Niamh Cotter, who were both 18 or so, is it? Max, you know? And on the Wexford side, you've Kylie Murphy and Ciara Rossiter, you know, who were 2 very experienced players. And when you're like, Eileen talks about the younger girls not taking a step back and not taking any shit, and I was laughing when I saw it, you know, because that's exactly what it looked like. John, very quickly, at the end of the game, I thought Danny was the manager in Cork City with the club who were trying to win the game, to be honest with you. You know, Christina Dring came off the bench, Robinson came off the bench, you know, the new signing Barrett Edison came off the bench, attacking substitutions, and it was like there was no fear there. It was like, okay. And one of the things about a 3-game group is if you lose the first game, it's almost impossible to do anything in the group. Whereas if you have a point, you're mathematically guaranteed to be involved on game day 3. So I don't know how much Danny pays attention to that kind of stuff, but I thought, like, going for it there, I thought was ballsy in a way.
Oh no, it was, and I'd agree with you. I think the substitutions that he made, he saw, you know, the girls were up for it. They were doing really, really well. They were probably the better team overall, and I think even Wexford supporters would admit that, which is unusual for us to be saying in a game against a team like Wexford. But he went for it, absolutely. When Aoife Robinson and Christina Dring came on, he was actually taking players off further back the field. It wasn't putting Christina into the 6 or anything like that. He was going for it. Possibly deserved it on balance, I think. But no, it was great. It was great to see a bit of swagger and a bit of bite around a Cork City team. And look, I spoke with Danny after the game last week up in Galway, and you could tell from him and just what he was saying about the players that everyone was down, and you know, but that the one thing that they were determined to was like that was a blip. You know, it wasn't going to happen again. they'd all worked too hard in the off season to go down that road, and I think could not have given a better response to that loss last week.
Very quickly, Eileen, what did you make of Wexford, and are you worried for them?
I'm not worried for them, but I was interested listening to Ronan on the commentary, because since you put me on blast over Wexford, me overrating them last week, like I've literally been thinking about it all week and like what's gone wrong, and like I nearly know, and like I think Ronan and commentary was kind of indicating the same, that like for years Wexford, like they weren't the most technical side in the world, but they worked harder than everyone else and they wanted it more than everyone else. And if a player came in there, it was known as the Wexford way, and as in you had to die on that pitch with your boots on, or you're not welcome at the club. And that's absolutely perfect. And that's going back to when they had the likes of Claire O'Riordan up front, like, and the defending started from her up top and she was the trigger. And they've now, football has changed, and now every manager thinks they're Pep Guardiola. And I think you have underage players coming through that probably haven't really bought into the Wexford way as what it would have been known. And I think that's probably your imbalance there. And I think Hugh is obviously trying to implement his style of play, and it's going to take a little bit of time. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I always say Wexford on their day could beat anyone? Yes, for one very simple fact: Ellen Malloy is in the team, and I do think she is an actual real life game changer. Not a club pretending to be game changers, an actual game changer. She can make something happen out of nothing. But I think that's it. I think there's been, as he said, for years when they were winning titles, and like it was probably something they used to get a bit of stick over, that they didn't play the greatest football, which was not true either. They played very good football. But what they did more than anyone else was they worked harder and they wanted it more. And as he said, they would kill for each other on the pitch and they wouldn't give an inch. And I don't think you really see that anymore. And that's why I'm saying we out Wexford. And I think Bohemians out Wexford on the opening night as well. And I think they have to find that balance with wanting to play your tiki-taka that every single manager wants to play, and still having that Wexford DNA, I suppose, essentially, since the league has kicked off.
Okay, the other game in this group finished Cliftonville 1, Shells 1. Guys, we had no stream, so there's not really a whole lot we can say. Eileen, you're close to Shelburne, we all know that. I mean, maybe you were lucky enough to pick up some info about how the game went, or...
The person is listening and they'll know when I said what happened in the game, they replied, load of shite. I was like, well, I can't say that, but I will. No, she kind of felt that a draw was a fair result. Again, they were very, very physical, a very, very physical side, but they, again, like other sides, rested a few that have started in the two league games, but I think they were happy enough coming back down the road with a point. But yeah, look, it's disappointing that there's no stream, isn't there? Because obviously, as City fans in particular and league fans, you want to be able to see the other teams in the group. Now, I also watched way too much football this weekend, so I wasn't overly sad. But like, you'd like to maybe go back and watch it during the week when I'm not sick of it. But that's disappointing, like, because every other ground has it. Even the DLR game moved from their usual venue and they had it. So like, I don't think there's any excuse for it, is there?
That actually reminds me of something, if you don't mind. I was talking to someone about the fact the first 5 minutes of the Wexford Cork City game, we were all faced with a black screen. What actually happened there was that centrally LOI TV patched in the stream from Turner's Cross, even though they had been told repeatedly that the game was on in Ferry Carrick. So that's just, it wasn't anyone at Cork City, it wasn't anyone in Wexford, it was actually centrally. They were trying to pull the stream from the wrong ground.
Decky said it, we laughed, but we all suspected that's what might have happened.
Yeah, that's what happened, yeah. I have that from a very, very reliable source that's what happened.
Well, when I said it, I was joking.
Obviously. I know.
It's like, I bet you know they're trying to take the stream from Turner's Cross. Ha ha! How could anybody be so stupid? And here we are now, and it turns out it's
that's
true.
Actually what happened. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, amazing, but not amazing at the same time. Yeah, look, it's poor. I mean, I had a great piece of audio made, but I'm told I can't use it because we'd be cancelled. Reno streaming Cliftonville, so it's never going to be hard. But yeah, look, it is what it is. I guess the only thing is that's Cliftonville's only home game. They're away to us and they're away to Wexford. So it won't be an issue that crops up again anyway. Hopefully, I presume Lisburn and Crusaders will both have streams, but I guess we won't know until they play at home. Speaking of Crusaders, John, they went to DLR and won 1-0. I watched this, like, when you've been in Limerick on Friday night, when you've driven to Limerick to watch Cork City play Treaty, and what was possibly one of the worst games of football you've ever had the misfortune of going to, when the next half of football you watch was that first half from DLR and Crusaders, your willingness to live on really, really takes a battering, like, because that first half was just turgid stuff. Like,
Yeah,
it improved second half, but the first half was turgid, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was terrible. Hardly worth talking about, to be honest. It was so bad. And it goes back to what Eileen said at the start of the pod there. DLR just weren't used to having the ball, and they didn't really know what to do with it when they were in that situation. And there was practically nothing happened. It was so bad. Second half did improve all right. I thought DLR were unlucky overall not to come away with something from it. I thought they were slightly the better team, probably had slightly the better players. Would be very disappointed with the goal they conceded. But yeah, it was a very, very poor game. It's very hard to see either of those two teams do much with the other teams that are in that group. But yeah, it was poor. Awful. And I had sat through the Treaty City game as well the night before, and that was, I think you're being kind to say, one of the worst games you've ever seen, because it was absolutely brutal.
As I said, it was some start to the weekend, that Treaty City game, and then DLR Crusaders. It was just like horrific. Eileen, can we link? And I think we can, because I was watching it. Unfortunately, Jess Gleeson was carried off 3 minutes before Crusader scored from a corner. I can see a direct correlation between Jess not being in the box, defending the corner, and the goal that Crusader scored. I presume you can see it too?
Yeah, no, I can, but I should also point out a very wise man said on this podcast last week, DLR are going to concede a lot of goals from corners. And she was on the pitch for that one last week. But yeah, obviously, look, Jess is like a big commanding centre half. She reads the game quite well, and she's often going to be there defending those. Like, so I'm sure that's what they'll be thinking as well. But yeah, look, I probably think I'm going to defend both teams. I don't know why, because I lost my will to live watching the first half in particular, but the conditions were awful. It was fierce windy. So I'm going to blame the wind. But I do think that Maddie Harvey-Clifford in goal for Crusaders was excellent, and DLR will be definitely, after coming away from saying, how did we lose that game? They had a few really good opportunities, and while maybe the keeper does very well, I think a couple of DLR players will be disappointed that they didn't score. And they've a big break now, and I think it's hard going into like 2 or 3 weeks off when you have something like that sitting in your head. Like, if it's a game where you're just well beaten, but where it's a game where you probably feel you've left a point or 3 even there, I think that can be tough. So hopefully they'll be really upset about it coming to Turner's Cross in 3 weeks.
The one thing I would say, obviously we hope Jess Gleeson won't be out for long, but they did look such a poor side towards the end of that game without her. And I think a DLR without Jess Gleeson is a particularly weak team to be trying to get something out of.
Yeah, she's such a leader for them, and he'd obviously Laura had rotated with the keeper as well, so they didn't have Eve either, so they're two main vocal off the pitch. Like, so as I said, look, hopefully for Jess's sake, that it's not long term, but hopefully for Cork City's sake, it's 4 weeks, not 3.
You're awful. You can't say things like that. We'll be cancelled. Yeah, look, I did ask somebody today, and they said that it looked that maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked on the stream, and that she was hopeful that she would make the Cork City game in Turner's Cross. She said they don't play for 3 weeks. They've no game next week. Then there's obviously the international break, so it does give her a chance to get herself back and fit as well. But look, just wish Jess all the best with that injury anyway, and hope it isn't anything serious. The other game in that group, Treaty 1, Shamrock Rovers 1. Treaty again, John. Like, they're no daws, that. Like, all jokes aside, and people were wondering, they have very, very good players in that team. Frisian is outstanding. Van Dalder that scored again is outstanding. Box on the left is very, very good. I mean, there's the makings of a very good team there.
Yeah, they were like, Treaty were the better team on the day. And if the only, like, right through the first half, Treaty were dominant. They had a couple of great chances, and the only time that Rovers, as good, like, Rovers have plenty good players, but the only time that Rovers really looked like they were going to break any kind of stranglehold was when Anya O'Gorman got near the ball. And then, like, Treaty score a really, really good goal. Anya O'Gorman pulls out an absolute worldie, and I know Jason Shanahan on the comms was like, did she mean it? And I know, I can see you smiling, Decky. There's no doubt in my mind she meant that. Not a doubt in my mind she meant that. But I know I thought it was a really good game. I thought Treaty were very unlucky not to get the win, though. Rovers had to kind of grind it out in the end, but yeah, it was really good display. But Friesen she's excellent.
Yeah, she is. And, like, I can't keep saying nice things about Treaty. So, Eileen, I will say, I feel like they didn't work. Summer Lawless came on at halftime. Amanda Budden played the first half. I just felt like they didn't work the keeper enough in the second half, and maybe didn't take advantage of some of the scenarios and some of the possession that they had in that second half.
No, probably not. And on a side note to that, because obviously Amanda's coming back off kind of a longer term injury, and she'd surgery in the off season, and I hope that was just a planned thing. It did appear to be from the stream that Summer Lawless.
It was.
Yeah, so just easing her back in, but no, but like you said, like, Treaty were really impressive. You don't actually think she wasn't shooting, Decky, do you, Anya Gorman? You think she didn't? Decky,
Stop.
Yes,
come on.
No, come
No,
on.
like, so, do you know what? Fair enough with some players, but she is that good.
Yeah, she 100%.
I know she's.
Like,
I know she's that good. I know she's capable of it. It's just the way the body is contorted and thing. I think there's an element of swinging one to the back pole. I don't know. I'm happy to be wrong, but I'm not saying it's a cross. I'm not saying it's a cross.
Look, it's an incredible strike at goal. And an incredible goal from an incredible player. But I think Treaty will be disappointed with how it comes about, in terms of, like, they cough up possession way too easily and trying to get it going very quick. And sometimes, look, that comes with, again, a little bit of experience and a little bit of know-how, but it does come down to that, like, you're trying to win a game and stuff. But come here, Jason Shanahan last year, I think, didn't he? Like, he had another one on commentary. Was it Noel Murray scuffed a shot and Katie McCabe had to call him out on it on Twitter? So
Yeah, that's right.
he has a history of stuff like this, so don't mind him.
Yeah, speaking, I'm going to get to Mr. Shanahan again in a couple of minutes, but I just have one other question, John, before I do. Shamrock Rovers' third 1-1 draw in a row. They've gone behind in all three games and come back to draw. This is me now in my headspace again. Is there any concern that they haven't managed to push on and win any of those three games? They've come back and got themselves level, but they haven't pushed on to win any of those games. Is that a concern in any way yet?
Yeah, probably is, because they have the quality player they have. When you get yourself back into a game, there should be an element of, okay, we're on the front foot now. Can we go on and win it from here? I think I think there's probably a little bit of pressure building there as well, because like, Treaty were excellent, and Treaty are a serious dark horse this year. But if you look at the three games that Rovers have played so far, they would have been expected to win all three probably, and they haven't come up against a Peamount or a Shells or a Galway yet. The next 3 or 4 games for Rovers are, going to be, some serious questions are going to be asked, I think, if they don't start turning things around, because there's bigger tests to come from them and they haven't really stood up so well to what's gone already. I think there's 3-1-1 draws is not how they would have wanted to start the season when they saw the three teams they would have been coming up against, I'd say.
Yeah, very much so. Eileen mentioned Mr. Shanahan, Mr. Jason Shanahan, who does the commentary for Treaty United. I've often wondered, as we were recording these pods and last year, whether I'm the only one who ever is really bothered by the whole game changers thing, and then the 2 stars on the shirt this year and the rest of the crest. And I often think you're only just taunting yourself. Nobody else cares. And then Jason popped up with this yesterday.
Questionable about Rovers is they're wearing 2 stars above their Shamrock Rovers crest to signal 20 league titles, but I believe it's only their men's team that have won 20 league titles. So that's an interesting addition to their kit. Rovers, of course, returning to the league after a long spell away. They were founding members, only spent 3 seasons, and returned in 2023 looking to change the game.
So I'm glad I'm not the only one who is bothered by these things anyway, you know. So fair play to Jason. As you said, Katie McCabe went after him last year. I presume somebody will be after him again at some stage this year anyway, you know. Finally, guys, Group D, Galway United won 2-0 in Sligo last night. Eileen, we were talking about this in the group afterwards. So, no, it's only 1 goal conceded in Galway's last 12 competitive games. And that was a 1-0 home defeat by Athlone. In those 12 games, they've gone 1-9, drew 2, lost 1. How are they not favourites to win the league with this form behind them and this defensive record behind them?
It's incredible, isn't it? It was only obviously when I was going down through it last night on the LOI Connect from last year, he's like, holy shit, that's frightening. Like, it really is. Like, and why they're probably going under the radar is because they're based outside of Dublin. And a lot of people don't actually realise there's teams outside of there. So that's really the only reason. But geez, they were really good last night, and the conditions were tough. Like, you could see for their second goal, like when she takes the shot, like the water's gathered on the pitch. Like if you're telling me Turner's Cross can't take a game, and that game's logo on at the showgrounds last night, like, you have to throw your hat at it, really, don't you? But they were good because, like, and they'd made changes again. He'd made changes, and everyone that comes in does a job. They all are putting their hands up to be selected now next week, going back to the showgrounds for a league game, which I know is your favourite thing to happen, Deck. No, they're impressive. They're so, and even, like, it's not that Sligo didn't test them. Like, Sligo really, really tested them, but just they're solid defensively, and it starts up top. It starts from your striker, like, and working hard, and that's whoever's up there, like. So no, they're really, really impressive, and I'm just looking forward to watching them because they're fun to watch. They are, even in those conditions that were bad last night, they're still trying to play football all the time. They're a great side to watch.
Yeah, you said that Phil rotated to a degree, and he did. And John, we saw, like, Rola Olasola comes in, gets 2 goals, but the pace she shows in the first goal to split the centre halves. I mean, I was only watching on the feed, and her pace terrified me. And I know I'm never going to be on a pitch against her. Like, so what does it do to a centre back? Like, I mean, you can't give her space.
Oh no, she was unreal. Frightening level of pace. And deceptive as well. She, it's only when you see someone next to her and how fast she's getting away from them that you realize how fast she's moving. She was unreal. And to think that she's not starting, week in, week out for Galway as well is frightening as well. She's just, again, it goes back to the thing, like, they're when they can bring someone like that off the bench or rotate them into the squad for a game. And when you look at the squad they have, they have to be, they have to be in the conversation about who's going to win the league this year.
Eileen, last game we have to look at is Glentoran's home game with Athlone, which Athlone ran out 5-2 winners. Massive turnaround second half. Glentoran actually went in 2-1 up at half time. Deservedly so, I thought. They had 2 wide players who were continually getting to the byline, putting balls in the box, and I genuinely felt every time the ball went into the box, they looked like scoring. What would you put the turnaround second half down to? I mean, would you be giving Kieran credit for changing things up at half time, or would you be putting a lot of it down to Glentoran just running out of legs with it being so early in their pre-season?
I'll give Kieran all the credit because I enjoyed his loan spell at Cork City where he scored all those goals, so it was all down to him. No, I thought Athlone were good in the first half as well. I think going forward they're excellent, and I thought they had plenty of chances. I didn't think they deserved to going down, because I don't think that Glentoran second goal was a goal, Declan. I think either was it Brennan or Slevin? I can't say, because they both have red hair and they were both there, but one of the two of them cleared it. I'm not discriminating against ginger people, but they were both there on the line, and I don't know which one of them it was that cleared it on the stream. And I don't think it's a goal at all. Like, do
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Look, I mean, it's. I put a screenshot into the group. It's impossible to say. It doesn't look over the line in any way, shape, or form. The only thing I'd say is the camera angle. Like, you have to
Can
trust
be skewed,
the
yeah.
lines person on the far side and thing. But I mean,
Do you?
if ever there was a touch,
Really?
if ever there was a touch of a hometown decision about a decision this weekend, that would certainly be the one I'd be holding up to say, you might want to look at this one, guys. But
Yeah,
look,
no, but like I do agree with you. I thought once they went out wide, in particular that number 8 who was out on the left side for them, she was really, really, really good. And like Kerry Beattie scored their goal. Like Kerry Beattie scored against Ireland in Windsor Park like a few months ago. Like, so that's the level of player you're up against as well. But I thought Athlone in the second half, and lads, every single goal was a cracking goal.
Yeah.
They were all brilliant, brilliant goals. They were either like really good strikes from distance. Now the keeper for Glentoran, little bit questionable for some of them. The wall, a little bit questionable. I don't know what happened there. But like a little bit, and Bows, I think, are the same this season. Like, and in the women's game, you need just shoot, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Some keepers are likely to do anything, and like you just don't know. And like Bows were doing it as well today. They were essentially shooting on sight, like, and I think Athlone started doing the same, and they were getting a huge amount of joy from it. But again, going forward, they're a very, very good side, and that Kerry Ann Brown, she was excellent the night of the President's Cup, and I think in the other two league games she's been a bit quieter, but she was excellent again today. And I thought Casey Howe was brilliant. I know, John, you'd pointed out Shauna Brennan last week. She was excellent again today, especially bombing forward. I think it's a great result. I think going up to the north and getting a win, especially when you're down at halftime, it's a really, really big result. Great stream, great commentary as well. So obviously the Northern Irish sides can put on a really good package as well. So just want to point that out.
look, again, we just want to say best of luck to Abby Carcio, who was carried off after 30 minutes. It looked a somewhat serious knee injury. Hope it's not another one of the American girls who has come into Athlone and was basically, she has played minutes for the first team, but that was probably her first real opportunity, and to see it end that way after half an hour is never nice. Best luck to Abby, and hopefully it's not a serious injury anyway. Guys, we got to move on. Right, lads, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this week. John, we're heading to you for the good by all accounts.
Yeah, there's a video that Cork City FC women put up on their Twitter and Instagram accounts from during the week, and it's just a school visit to Skull on Spirit Nave in Cork. It was Jessie Mendez, Colleen Kennedy, and Lauren Walsh that went down there, and the thing that's great about it is, like, it's a girls' school, and the cheer that Jessie, Colleen, and Lauren get when they walk into the hall there is just unbelievable. And there's kids there, like a huge number of girls with Cork City jerseys on, more with Irish jerseys on, and they're just, this reception was massive. Like, it's, and I just, it goes to show, like, first of all, it goes to show what City players in this case, but also players across the league do when they go into schools and local clubs, and they really are heroes to girls that are coming up behind them, and it's a brilliant thing. But just credit to Cork City and the players for the work they're doing. Go down to community schools, but it like warmed the cockles of your heart. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I know, absolutely fantastic, and I'd argue that not enough clubs do enough of it. But I know it's not a full-time league and it's hard and everything else, but even the rewards that the players get just from the reactions and everything else must make it all worthwhile. Eileen, I'm getting an absolute complex now because I'm told you're taking the bad again this week.
I'm going to take the bad, and I'm giving Peamount the bad, but not Peamount specifically, but their camera for the stream that misses half the match at times. Like, I didn't see Linfield's first goal because the camera didn't follow the ball. Linfield's penalty, it just went back. It's like it's still on the pix a lot almost. I don't know, that you're like following a bald head on the sideline instead of the football or something, but it's terrible. And it's annoying, like, because it was a really good game of football, but then you're kind of missing key moments. And there was one or two things at Piedmont in the first half as well where they were like positively going forward, and suddenly you can't see what's happening once you get into the box because the camera doesn't move. So that's my bad. That needs to be better. We've some excellent quality of streams, but there's room for improvement with some. And Piedmont.
Okay, that leaves me with the ugly again. 3 weeks running, I'm getting the message. Okay.
Sorry.
I've gone for, and I don't know, is this really genuine? I'm fighting with myself about this one, to be honest with you, right? Eileen now has her hand, if you could say, over her. She's terrified about what I'm going to say. FAI Connect today, one in the women's under 17s and one in the women's under 19s. Two relatively new clubs to the things got battered over the weekend, right? 12-0 in the under 17s, 11-0 in the under 19s. I know it's top class. I know it's the top level of football you can play at. I'm going to contradict myself and say, for example, if Bows had beaten Shells 12-0 in under 19s, I would say leave it there because those clubs are established and their youth systems are established. When I see clubs who are new to the grading and new to the level, long established League of Ireland clubs, long established. We're not talking about projects here, but when I see them trying to establish their women's sides and trying to establish their academies, I just ask myself, John, is there a need to put the scores on the app? I mean, just run to 5 or 6-0 and leave it be clear that sides were well beaten, but do you really need to go to the 11 and 12s? Even though I know it's 19s and 17s and the players should be able for it. As I said, I'm kind of fighting with myself on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't notice either of those scores now. What I would say is that just for put my grassroots hat on at the moment is if you are in the SFAI Cup and you are getting battered in a game, the SFAI only records the score up to 5-0. So if any team in any SFAI competition, which is, even if it was the final, right up to semi-final, whatever, if someone gets clipped 9, 10, 11-0, no one knows that. They see 5-0, they can draw assumptions, but that's where it's cut off. I think for under 17, you're still talking about kids. And to a degree, you are with 19s as well. But the age profile in the league is such that a lot of the under 17 players are 14 and 15. And you don't want to demoralize kids who are already feeling down and possibly going into school the next day with their friends who know they're playing for a certain club and they got whipped at the weekend. The other side of it is that you're on elite level professional, so on a path hopefully to professional sport, and it's part of it, and the reporting of it doesn't change the fact that you've gone through that experience. Yeah, I'm torn on it. Yeah, I'm going to sit in the fence, Decky, to be honest, because I'm not sure how I feel about it. Yeah, I'd be quite a soft person anyway. I think I'd probably veer towards, does anyone really? I suppose if a league can be decided on goal difference, you have to record it. That's the thing. Like, that's the reason. The thing about the SFAI Cup competition is that they're knockouts, so it doesn't really matter if you're just recording, who won effectively. But if a league can be decided by goal difference, you kind of have to, don't you?
Yeah, look, I mean, as I said, I'm arguing with myself almost on it, but it was more about the two clubs involved and what they're trying to do in setting up their academies and the work they're putting in. And it's just like, as I said, if it was Bows or Shells or Shamrock Rovers or Cork City who were beaten by those numbers, I'd be kind of like more inclined to just go, well, tough luck, you're on the go years, It's just like, look, it was Longford and Cove Ramblers, and it's just kind of like, Longford are doing such good work and you're trying to do such good work and setting up the women's account. Like, Shamrock Rovers go there and beat them 12-0. Do we really need to record? And I know I'm saying it now, but look, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. Anyway, That's my ugly for the week anyway. I can't get away from it now because I'm not deleting all this off the recording. So it'll just have to stay there. Okay, very quickly before we finish up, guys, we'll look just very quickly to the next weekend. Shams are playing Treaty and Sligo are at home to Galway again. They're repeat fixtures of this week, even though Treaty are going to Dublin where the last games. I hate these back-to-back fixtures. It's just, I don't know why. I just hate it. When Galway were going to Sligo next weekend, I have no idea why they set the same fixture as the first round game of the All Island Cup. They could have done it some other way. But anyway, that's just me being pedantic. Other games, Bows are home to Cork City. That's in Dalymount Park on Saturday at 3 o'clock. Shams Treaty, as I said, is in Tala at 4 on Saturday. Peamount play Wexford in PRL Park at 5. Sligo play Galway in Sligo at 7. And Athlone are at home to Shells at 7:30 next Saturday night. DLR are the team who are on their bye week. Anything jumping out there at either of the two of you?
Looking forward to Athlone Shells, to be honest. I think that's the pick of the games. That should be a cracker. And it being on, Saturday evening, kind of separate from the other games in terms of timing, it gives you kind of even fans of other clubs in the league have the opportunity to go and kind of watch that as a standalone game. So hopefully it gets a good response in the stream and a lot of people watching it. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
This might sound silly, but I actually think Bows Cork City is a massive game next Saturday because I think Cork City will fancy it to a degree, and I think Bows will be looking at it going, this is Cork City, we can beat them, and I think it almost, I don't know, if you look at it, start of the season, I think Cork City would have said we'll be in a mini league. There'll be Cork City, Sligo, Treaty, DLR and Bows. And I think Bows will be looking at it going, we are in our arse in that mini league. We're in the other league with the rest of them, And I think this game on Saturday would give an indication as to where both clubs are. Even though it's only the third league game of the season, it's only an 18 league game season as well. It's a short season in terms of a league. There isn't much room for making errors or doing any of that stuff. So, as I said, it just strikes me as a game that maybe has a little bit of importance outside of just league points, if that makes sense, Eileen.
Yeah, well, I suppose for City, like their first two games were against people that we'd be expecting to be in the title mix. And look, both have been really impressive, and I have watched a lot of them. But I do think this will probably give us a good indication of where City stand, because obviously, like we've spoke about Wexford being a little bit of a basket case, so it's kind of hard to know judging against them. But like the Bows game and the DLR game, I think is going to tell us a lot about City. And as you said, it is really early in the season, but it's just the fact there's only 2 rounds of fixtures. If you kind of fall behind, it's really hard to claw those points back, because points aren't the easiest things to pick up, as Cork City have discovered in the last few years, even when you are playing well, kind of getting the results over the line. But I like my big thing will be like how dangerous Orla Fitzpatrick was out wide for Bows, and Ciara Rossiter had so much joy last week or last night, because Laura Shine, to be fair to her, I don't think like she's not defensively minded, so she was playing out wide, and like she was leaving Alex quite exposed. So like I think the swap with her and Colleen is probably a natural one to make, because Colleen just wants to just has buckets of energy. She's up and down the wing, and Laura's kind of a good outlet to hold the ball up and stuff like that. So I wonder, will we see that? Because as I said, it wasn't Alex's fault, because she was just left very isolated at times. And as I said, Bowes had such a threat there. And Tegan Ruddy is very, very precise, like as a centre half. Like she's almost like a quarterback. Like the ball's at Fitzpatrick's feet. Or like they've Sarah McKevitt to possibly come in. She's pace on us out the other side as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. As I said, with City, we always have these things where like, and I'm probably the most guilty of it, like where I get really up, like, and I'm really positive about it, and then next week I'm like, we are useless, and like there's no in between with me. Like, do you know what I mean? There's no in between. So like I want to try to remain on a medium kind of, so if they could get a draw and finally kind of kick on and start getting those results, picking up these points in the league, not just in the Setanta Cup or whatever it's called.
John, here's a stupid question for you. No, let's not say stupid. Let's say ridiculous. Shamrock Rovers are home to Treaty United. Third league game of the season. Is it must win for Shamrock Rovers?
No. Yes, but I don't think they can expect to win after the performance against them this week. So it's a bit of a strange one. I think if Rovers had looked at our first 4 games of the season, our first 3 league games of the season, and going down to hosting Treaty this weekend, there's a chance based on last weekend they lose that game. If they have 2 points after 3 games, that's not good enough given the investment and everything that's gone in there. So, I suppose, look, it's only a few games in, but probably it's a must-win game, actually. I don't think they will win it, but it probably is a must-win game for them.
Jason Shanahan will be delighted. Eileen, we have established that Wexford are capable of beating anybody on their day, but are they capable of beating Peamount in PRL Park next Sunday or next Saturday?
They're capable of it, but I'm not sure if they will. It depends who Peamount have available. It'll be a close game. They're always really close between the two of them. Even when one side is kind of visibly on top of the other in terms of league position and stuff like that. They're traditionally been very, very close teams. When they play each other, depends honestly who Peamount have available. Like if Sive is anywhere close to fitness or coming back in, but I would suspect at this stage we won't see her till after the international break. Probably just gives her that little bit more time. But again, we're speaking about the short season, and Peamount are going to be looking at it saying, well, we lost our last game, we have to win this. Wexford haven't won yet this season, and if you look, there's an interview with Avian Clancy after the game, and it's obviously in their heads that they haven't won, and as you said, the longer it takes to get a win, the harder it becomes to get that win. So you're talking about must win for Shamrock Rovers. It's a must win for Wexford, or you're probably saying we're out of the title run already.
They were never in the title run. Come on, seriously,
they were in John's top 3, Decky. Okay, a bit of respect, please.
I know nothing, clearly.
Okay. Is this the same John who's been putting messages in the WhatsApp group all weekend going, please can we edit out the part where I said Wexford were in my top 3? So finally, the last game. I'm just going to make a prediction here about the Galway Sligo game. Big shout here from Decky, but I think Galway will go and win in Sligo, and there'll be no issues with it.
Big call, Decky, big call.
Wow.
Always the man to put his head on the chopping block, guys. Always the one.
That game's going to be a draw.
Guys, that's a poor Phil Trill will be looking for my head as after I put the hex on him. But we'll see what happens. Guys, that's about it for this week, I think. As we always say, and nobody's used it yet, but I am waiting for the day that Wayne, who has the phone, sends through a Las Damas WhatsApp message. The number is 089 452 7762. If you're out and about at a game next weekend, drop us a line. Let us know where you are, what you're doing, and we'll give you a shout out next week on the pod.
For the players. We like that.
Yeah.
Decky really likes chance.
Yeah.
People who don't listen to the original Toe Tap now have no idea what you're doing, but we have somebody on a WhatsApp who sends in a chant every week, Cork City related chant for a different player or something. So that's where Eileen is going with that. But yeah, chants are welcome by all means, within reason, I guess. Guys, anything either of you want to get off your chest before we go?
Just to wish Jason Shanahan a very enjoyable week ahead from all the DMs from Shamrock Rovers players and their parents.
It's a break for me anyway.
I know, yeah,
Thanks,
a week off.
Nice one, Jason. I love Limerick. Bye.
Okay. To all the toe tappers out there, thanks a million for listening. Hope you enjoyed the pod, and we will be back next week where we'll take a look at what's happened over the weekend, maybe look ahead to the international games, and anything else that crops up in the SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division between now and next Sunday night. Adios.
Adios.